Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Give everyone a moment to get their audio all set up, but we're really glad you're here. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We'll just give it another 15 or 20 seconds and let folks get settled in and get their audio all set up. Okay. All right, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome in, everybody. We're really glad to have you here for this session on building your class schedule. So my name is Grant Sewell. I'm a Senior Assistant Dean of Admission in the Office of Admission, and we're really glad to have you here. To be able to answer your questions on, thinking about like what your class schedule is going to look like. We're joined by a couple of folks in our registrar's office and also our director of academic support. And so to kind of get us started, I will turn it over to our guests to go ahead and just kind of introduce themselves and kind of share a little bit more about the session in just one second. You might have questions during the session and we want to make sure we answer those for you. And so if you do have a question, if you want to message that directly to me, so Grant Sewell, I will go ahead and make sure to get those to our presenters. But without further ado, I will turn it over to our presenters and maybe start with David for an introduction.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is David Gruber. I'm the director of the Office of Academic Support here at Reed. And I'm going to throw it over to Jason, who will give us a quick overview and also help introduce the other presenters.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Maher. I am the incoming registrar at Reed College. Full disclosure, this is the first day of my second week here at Reed College. So I am going to be listening and taking notes, I think probably as intently as all of you. So we'll just be new together and we'll just learn all this together. So we're happy to have you here with us. In this session, we're going to cover academic advising and planning at Reed, especially how those things relate to course registration. We will discuss the college's advising materials and processes, including how you get matched up with a faculty advisor. You'll learn how to prepare to register for classes and some of the resources that are available to assist you in doing that planning. You'll also learn a little bit about an exciting new advising registration procedure that Reed is doing this summer. As David has introduced himself, I'll point out that I am currently overlapping with the current Reed registrar, who is Nora McLaughlin. And I think I'll just kick it over to Nora to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Nora McLaughlin, registrar at Reed. And I will be heading out in the middle of June and leaving you in Jason's good hands and the good hands of a really great staff in the office. So we're all excited about seeing you this fall and working with you over the summer to get into classes. Martha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Martha Schlitt. I'm the associate registrar for enrollment, and I want to mention that I am one of the 5 others in the registrar's office that will be there to answer your questions. I focus more on registration and connecting with advisors and that kind of thing, but any of us will be the one. There are 4 others who will answer your questions if you write to us directly, so say an email or come to the office. But also, if you use our email, registrar@reed.edu, you'll hear from one of all of us specifically about the questions you're asking.
Okay, so I'm going to talk generally about academic advising at Reed. It's a little different than what you might have experienced in high school. Really, it's available to students in many forms. You will have a faculty academic advisor. You will also get advising from people in the registrar's office. Student Life does some advising. Life Beyond Read that talks about internships, externships, and what to do beyond the Reed campus and college. So a lot of advising happens both formally and informally, but we're going to focus today on your academic advisor and academic advising more specifically. And the faculty academic advisor's role is to really help students navigate the Reed program and get advice about how to find resources. So when students are juniors and seniors, their advisor is in their major department. So very, very typical. But before that, the advisor may be in their area of interest, but many students come to Reed saying, I'm not sure. I mean, one of the great things about a liberal arts education is that you can come thinking you're going in one direction and then fall in love with a completely different discipline and end up with a Bachelor of Arts degree. All of our degrees are Bachelor of Arts, so it's not like you're taking a big turn. So advisors can be in a different department than one than perhaps you're thinking about. And many students change their minds in the first couple of years. So our advisors are really pretty good at advising very generally in the first couple of years at Reed, because there are some general requirements that everybody needs to complete. While some students, as it says here, will have an advisor for their whole Reed career, it's more common for students to have more than one advisor. Faculty go on sabbatical, students change their major, all of that. So we make it very easy to change advisors. This summer, a select group of faculty will advise incoming students for their course selection for the first year. These summer advisors are experienced in advising and are looking forward to working with students to help you develop your plan for classes. So this summer, you'll meet with faculty twice, during June and July, to select your courses. And then during orientation week, you will get to know your academic advisor, your formally assigned academic advisor. It may, for some of you, be that your summer advisor is also your academic advisor, but for many of you, that will not be the case. So you'll actually get 2 for 1 in this first semester. When you meet with your advisor in August to talk, you'll look at those courses that you've selected over the summer and your schedule, and talk about your long-term goals, discuss, and the advisor will talk to you about the role of the advisor at Reed. Advisors are as individual as you are, and so they have different strategies for how they interact with and reach out to you. Now, David is going to talk a little bit about how we assign advisors and the importance of the information we ask you to provide us so that we can both do a good match with an advisor and so that your advisor has really good information to start that conversation with you. Take it away, David.
Okay, thanks, Nora. So there are 2 forms that are available in IRIS for new students. We use to match incoming students with their academic advisor, the official academic advisor who you'll meet with during orientation, but we'll also use that information to try to put you with the best available advisor for you during summer registration as well. So this slide shows you just sort of how to get to the 2 forms on IRIS. On the new students webpage, you'll hover over the before you arrive link and then click on materials and forms, and that will take you to the page that shows the checklist and information required by each date. And so you can see on the right, there's a kind of pop out of what that looks like. The 2 forms that we're talking about today are the academic questionnaire and advisor matching, and the academic advisor letter of introduction forms. So we're asking that you fill those out by June 1st. That will give us the most time to use that information to match you up with someone who's really well placed to assist you for summer registration, as well as your academic advising in your official advisor who you'll meet with during orientation. So I just want to take you really quickly through these 2 forms, what they look like. So this first one is the academic questionnaire and advisor matching form. Here you're able to tell us what you're thinking about for your academic path at Reed. So the first question here is to have, you have 3 options to tell us 3 majors you're considering, or to tell us, I'm really undecided, but here are some things that I'm interested in. So in the example that I have here on the slide, this might be for someone who's undecided about a major, but thinks, they'd like to explore more about biology or classics, which is now going to be called Greek, Latin, and Ancient Mediterranean Studies, which has the amazing acronym GLAM. But if you come to Reed and you feel like, I'm definitely sure I want to be an anthropology major, and that's my #1 choice, put anthropology as #1 and use 2 and 3 to tell us, maybe I'm also considering theater, and I'm also considering chemistry as possible majors as well. So if you do select a major as opposed to undecided as your first choice, we also ask you, how certain are you? Quite certain, moderately certain, or uncertain. And that really is pretty straightforward, but just, give us a sense, I'm really committed to anthropology, or anthropology sounds interesting, but I might be open to other things as well. You'll also have a place on this form to tell us if you're interested in taking a placement test. So you'll see that there's a checkbox available for each of the placement tests that is being offered this summer. I'm going to move forward to the next slide, which will show you the bottom half of this form. The form is too long to fit on one slide. But the second part of this form is the course interest checklist. So we ask that you think about, what are you potentially interested in taking this year? Not necessarily specific classes, but what departments are interesting to you as you think about your first year at Reed. We have links here to the schedule of classes, and we encourage you to use the major planner pages to think about what you might take based on potential majors that you're considering. And Martha will talk more about those tools a little bit later on. I'll just point out that here in this checklist, what you put here does not commit you to enrolling in those courses or courses in those departments. This is really meant to help your advisor get a better sense of what you're interested in, what you're thinking about for your first year. So it will be a point of conversation rather than commitment in any particular direction. You'll notice that Hume 110 is already checked for you, and that's because all incoming first-year students will take Hume 110, and many transfer students will also take Hume 110 or another humanities course. So this slide does not capture the full list of courses that is available in the course interest checklist, but just is meant to give you a view of it. Then the other form that we'll ask you to fill out is the letter of introduction to your academic advisor. And this gives you an open-ended way to tell your advisor more about yourself that goes beyond checking some boxes. So we give you 4 open text box fields to answer these questions. If you have a major in mind, what about it is appealing? And if you're undecided, what are you thinking about? What do you find interesting? It's kind of a chance to elaborate more on what you've done in the other form. Do you have a sense of what you might like to do after graduating from Reed? And is there anything you'd like your advisor to know about you or your background, your life experiences to date that would help them better advise you in your academic program? And then if you have any other comments or concerns that you'd like to share with your advisor, you can do those here. You can include those here. So just a couple of quick thoughts. As Nora said before, it's really common for students to have more than one advisor over the course of their time at Reed. And so what you write in these forms does not, again, kind of commit you to being a bio major for your entire time. You might be a bio major your first year and have a bio advisor, and at the end of that year decide, I really loved my sociology classes. I really would like to do that. We have a really easy way to change advisors, and at the end of your first year, that might be an appropriate time to consider, do I want to keep working with an advisor if I'm thinking of being in a different area. And the other thing that I would say about these forms is fill them out as best you can right now. And then if your interests really change over the course of the summer, write to me and we can talk about whether it would make sense for you to fill the form in again. So in the form, you'll see there's an email address for academic support. It's academic-support@reed.edu. Get in touch if you would like to talk about, the option to fill the form in again. But just do the best you can right now and for July 1st, and we'll go from there as needed. Okay, so I'm going to pass it on to Martha. You're on mute.
Yes, I got that. I just want to introduce you to some of the resources that are available to new students as you're planning for registration for this summer. If you've already looked at this page, you'll see that there's there are a number of links that will take you to really helpful information. But I'd like to highlight two in particular, and that is the course catalog and the scheduled classes. The catalog gives you an idea of all course offerings for the year, and the schedule provides the specific days and times the classes meet each semester. What else is on this page? I think we'll just go to the next slide. So again, back to the new students website where we have everything sort of stored for you, and under academic planning on this site, you'll see the overview and then advising and registration. And this is where you really get down to sort of more of the nitty gritty of getting ready for selecting classes. From this page, there's if you guys go back one, lower down on that page, again, we can't see it, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to point out because you're getting resources from lots of different places. We talk about the catalog and the schedule, but a really great resource will also be the virtual department open houses. And so on that page lower down, you'll see that mentioned June 16th and 17th. And that's where you'll learn more about Reed's various departments and majors. Faculty will be there on some of those open houses to answer your questions. And there's more than one, and I think you'll be able to, attend more than one. They'll have a schedule published. I don't know exactly when. I think it's coming soon. Grant, do you have any idea when that might be coming out? It might be more of an orientation thing.
I believe it is, but
Okay.
very soon.
So look out for that. Okay, so then the next slide will bring you to a schedule of classes. And this is, let's see, the schedule of classes you'll see it's pretty self-explanatory how to navigate. One of the most important features is when you're looking for a particular area is to select the subject. So there's a drop-down menu and they're all listed alphabetically. So that's the first and most obvious way to sort of narrow down what you're looking for. But there are a lot of other ones, and you might have been hearing us talk about group requirements, and sometimes it's a little hard to get a handle on what those are. And so when you use that drop-down menu, you'll see group 1, 2, and 3, and it will actually give you a summary of all subjects and the courses that fulfill those group requirements. So that's a great resource. And one other really important one where we put the big green arrow is the courses that have no prerequisites, because most of you coming in first year in college are going to want to look at more of the 100 level classes that are open to new students. When you click on it, you'll see if you use the subject code, you're going to get all the courses, which is a great way to think about what's in your future. But you'll also note that there will be prerequisites so you won't actually be able to register for those classes. So let's see if this is just a way to navigate that page. You'll see things are in red, which tells you that if you click on it, you'll get more information. So once you find an interesting course, click on the title. That information will include a link to the course description. So you won't get it until you click on the course description, and that'll take you to the catalog. And the catalog is another great resource and something you could just look at for days. So you're going to want to get used to toggling back and forth between what is the schedule, what is when those classes actually meet, and then really what are these classes about. And you can see that they have an extensive description, and some of the prerequisites or co-requisites are also a possibility. Sometimes you'll take this course and you can take it if you take another one during the same semester. Let's see. Actually, that's my spiel. I wanted to, I'll pass it back to Nora to start talking about major planners.
And I will unmute myself.
Good thinking.
All right. So in thinking about a major, one of the things we put together for students to help them conceptualize a major is something called a major planner. And when you look at the schedule of classes, as Martha did a brief overview, there's so many choices. It's like, where do I start? And you can read about each major in the catalog, and that's online, obviously. And we are updating the catalog for 21-22, but the catalog that's up there for 2021 is got all the information I think you will need to think about registering for the fall. But so you can read about each major in the catalog, and we have an online tool you'll be able to use called Atlas when you get here that will help you plan your degree program. But before then, I think the major planners are most helpful. Go ahead, switch to the next slide, David. And they're grouped by the kinds of requirements. So I mentioned earlier that Reed offers the Bachelor of Arts degree. And so unlike places that offer a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Music or Bachelor of Fine Arts, everybody at Reed does a liberal arts Bachelor of Arts degree. And that means we have multiple components. So the major, which is pretty significant, and we have an example here. And I'll talk a little bit about, so there are major requirements. With some majors, there are division requirements, and I'll address that in a minute. But everybody has what we call group requirements, and at some other institutions, they're called general education requirements, but they're really the foundational requirements that we expect every student to do as part of a liberal arts degree. And it's a broad spectrum of courses, so there are many ways to fulfill each of the groups. But when you look at a major planner, if you look at English right here, there are two versions of the English major. There's the foreign literature emphasis or the cultural emphasis. So if you're a student who wants to do, an English major with a literature emphasis, you're going to end up doing at least 2 years of foreign language and literature in that language, which is really a cool way of looking at literature writ large, but also at looking at English. If you're not going to do foreign literature, you can do a cultural emphasis. And so this is just to give you an example of, even in an English major, there are at least 2 versions. And now there are actually creative writing versions of the English major as well. And so let's go to the next slide. So English is in a division that has division requirements, and you'll see those in the second band of requirements. The literature and languages faculty have said, it's really important to us that a student have a unit in the division of the arts. This can be done also satisfy a group requirement, but it's something where the faculty have said, this is really important to us, that students have that as part of their undergraduate degree. And then credit and distribution requirements, these are something all students complete. Everyone does Humanities 110. Transfer students will do either Humanities 110, or depending on what they bring to us and at what year they transfer, there are some other versions of it, Humanities 200 level courses they can do. The group requirements are now 3. Back in 2018 and earlier, there were 5 group requirements. Now there are 3, and the groups are identified basically curricularly with things that are similar. So you'll see kind of the arts and literature and humanities in group 1. You'll see social sciences in group 2, and you'll see sciences in group 3, roughly. So this is one way for you to look at the different majors and think about what it would take to complete them. And we give you this just as a map that you could think about different ways of approaching the degree. And as English has 2 different paths, so art has 2 different paths, art history or studio art. But in both of those emphases, you would take studio art majors take art history, and art history students who emphasize art history also take studio. So there's a lot of crossover. And so look at those planners. They might help you really understand what a major is. We may have majors in areas you haven't seen in your high school, or even those of you who've done community college work that you may not have seen there. So Martha, I'll leave it back to you for planning. Mute.
Okay, got that. This might look sort of old-fashioned. There's folks who still like writing these things down one by one. You may have a matrix, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever, to start to get an idea of what you literally would take. And you always want to give yourself options. So we created this planner because it includes, and it's funny because there's only, again, we're only showing half the page, but the top half says fall semester and the bottom half says spring, because it reads students register for the full year all at once. All of the courses that we're offering in spring are available, so you can see them and plan for them. Some of the classes you take in fall may serve as prerequisites for courses that you take in the spring. And changes can be made to your spring schedule when the system reopens. We have registration during the summer. The solar, I saw a quick note in the chat. Someone was asking about, we use a lot of these terms, forgetting that they don't mean anything to you, but solar is a funny way of just saying the student online registration system. So it's our solar system. And we have solar open all summer, and then it's only open for add and drop when the semester begins at the end of August. And then we reopen it for spring registration changes. So you've already registered for spring, but don't worry, it will reopen about mid-November to continue making changes after your first semester, or as you're in your first semester. So let's see. As you look over the schedule of classes, you can use this worksheet to list, say, 5 of your top choices, in each semester. That's when you'll start to work out, like, when do they actually meet and that kind of thing, which we'll talk about on Friday. But you can use this worksheet when you meet with your summer advisor to go into further detail about the academic direction that you hope to take. And also just to prepare for having your options open. It's something you're going to hear a lot, but it's something you really do want to keep in mind. You might list 5, but you're only going to register for 3, that kind of thing. So that's the worksheet. I think we're done with our slides. Yes. Good.
Great. Thanks, Martha.
Sure.
And thank you, Nora and David. Just a ton of great information there. Extremely helpful. We do have 2 more sessions coming up. One is this week, Friday, the 28th. That is on how does registration work? So that's an important session, pretty nuts and bolts stuff, but they're going to go into more detail about registration and the various stages of registration. Talk a little bit more about what Martha was referencing there about fitting your classes into a calendar so you don't have time conflicts and that kind of thing. We have another session a week following that one, Friday, June 4th, on things like placement exams and AP and IB exam credit and stuff like that. So do please join us for those sessions as well. And I think at this point, we're ready to open it up for questions, I think.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jason. I would say we did have one question about somebody who was starting to think about building their schedule with kind of a known time away that they're hoping for. They were hoping to take some time off during the week of Thanksgiving, and we're just kind of curious how they might think about that when they're like kind of selecting their schedule or kind of working with an advisor about kind of known time away in scheduling.
Sure, I'll start. Reed has a fall break, which is somewhat unusual. We have a full week in October where students get a break. And as a result, we do not take the full week of Thanksgiving off, for example. And I know for some students that's a stretch or concerning because they want to be home for Thanksgiving. We will have classes meet Monday through Wednesday of that week. And so students would need to think about talking to their faculty about, will there be exams that week? Will there be things due that week? How would they make up that work? So I don't think I would plan my whole schedule around that, because Monday through Wednesday we will be holding classes. But certainly once they've selected their classes, working with the faculty to figure out how to navigate that, and whether that'll be troublesome will be important.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Nora. And had a question that might be, a good incentive to attend the event next week that Jason highlighted, but it was about math placement exams. And if those are something somebody should be thinking about, doing at some point over the summer, or if that's something a student would do when they arrived at Reed.
So placement exams generally should be done over the summer because it helps make sure we get you into the right courses this July when you register. Math does a little bit, they have a different take on that. They do not have a placement exam. And what we will be posting on the placement exam page is the faculty with whom you would get in touch. And the math faculty do a brief interview with the student to talk about the courses they've taken, where they are in their math journey, what they've done, and then they will provide the student and our office with a placement recommendation. And once we get that placement recommendation, we enter that into the student information system so that when a student registers, they're actually eligible. So for example, a number of students, depending on your placement, your AP exam credit in math, will be able to not take Math 111, which is our calculus class. And so some students will be placed based on the AP exam. But unfortunately, we probably won't have a lot of those results before registration starts. So we will have a way for you to reach out to the faculty. They will then let you know and let us know what that placement is, so we can enter that in. So that, for example, if you get to bypass 111, Math 111, we'll have that in the system, and Solar will know that you can take Math 112 without it, for example.
Perfect. Thank you, Nora. And had a placement test follow-up question, I think, in regard to foreign language. Should a student think about doing a foreign language placement exam if they're not sure about continuing in that language at Reed?
Yes, for two reasons. One is, once you have that placement exam result recorded, it's there for you. So even if you decide in your second year that you want to take second year Spanish and that's where you placed, you don't have to try to come to orientation or do something over the summer. Also, there are a couple of, most majors that require foreign language don't take a placement exam as a substitute, but a couple of them do. So a couple of them, if you place at a certain level, that meets a major requirement. So we always suggest that you do the placement exam closest to the time you've done the coursework, because you're going to do well. And then that exam stays with you. So even if you're not sure, take the placement exam. I think that's recorded, and it could be useful to you down the road.
And I had one follow-up question about placement exams as well. If you end up placing into a certain level and you realize that maybe you're at a level that's beyond that, is there any flexibility to change out of that course mid-semester, or should you just likely see that through and then reevaluate your schedule?
It's interesting, in the languages, I've seen the faculty say, this person's kind of right on the edge, and they let the student know, and the student can elect to do the more challenging course. So I think there is some negotiation there, but we really want students to be in a class where they're going to be successful. So that would probably be a conversation with the faculty.
Nora, does the same go for the other way? You place into a higher level and you realize maybe you need to start.
Yeah, Jason, that's a good question. We've on occasion, it's rarer to do that, but we've had students who say, oh my gosh, I got placed into second year Spanish, but I haven't taken Spanish in 2 years. And what they do is they talk with the Spanish faculty, and they can negotiate that. We've even had people who placed in one and we backtracked them 2 weeks into the semester. So there is some flexibility going the other way. It's more typical that in that other direction, but absolutely.
And just had a question about how Reed views like dual enrollment classes maybe taken at the community college, and like, how a student should kind of share their transcript to make sure that credit gets reviewed.
Yeah, the rules for that changed for this year's incoming class. So a student can bring in at maximum 8 units of AP, IB, dual enrollment, as long as the dual enrollment course wasn't taken at the high school or was just for high school students. So even if they use that course for graduation from high school, which we didn't used to allow, but we do now, as long as it was a regular college course with regular college students, with other college students, we would accept that up to a limit of 8 Reed units, which is in other places like 32 semester credits. So, and we'll talk a bit more about all of this in that session a week from Friday, but happy to hear those questions now.
I think you've spoken to the questions thus far that I have, unless anyone in the group has received anything directly that they wanted to speak to.
Grant, there's a question in the chat about whether questions should just be put in the chat or private message directly to you.
Either way, you can definitely message them directly to me, or, if it's maybe something more general that you don't mind sharing your name with, you can share that with the whole group.
So if I did not click the box for placement exam, could that be fixed later so I can take it? And are there placement exams for languages not offered by Reed? So yes, clicking the box just helps. I think it helps the department's plan. But once the placement exam website opens up, you can take whatever placement exams you want. That's helpful information for us to know to plan, and really for your advisor to know that that was something you were interested in doing. We do not have placement exams for languages we do not offer. Arabic is kind of in an in-between space. We offer that with Lewis and Clark and with one of our partner institutions in Morocco, as it happens. And so we can manage a placement exam in Arabic. But other, exams, other languages that we don't offer that are not in our curriculum, we do not have placement exams for.
Perfect. And I think we have time for one more question, which it looks like we have someone who received AP Bio and AP Chem scores already. Do they still need to take the summer placement exam?
We don't have placement exams in biology or chemistry. We just have, we rely on the AP scores, and you can, on the admission website, there is a guide to what your AP exam score will yield in terms of placement in courses at Reed. So if you have that, and that would be a helpful thing to have when you meet with your summer advisor, because if we don't have your AP scores, but you do, you can at least share that information with your advisor, which would be very helpful to them. But you can look on the admission website for the AP score equivalencies to see where you would place.
Nora, are the placement exams basically languages and mathematics, or are there others?
Economics and music and
Physics?
physics is doing one this year and computer science is doing one this year. Yep, yep.
And there will be more information about all of those placement exams posted on the new students page.
Right. Good point.
And more on Friday, June 4th, I assume, at the session.
Yeah, not this one.
But this is a good practice for us.
No, I appreciate you highlighting the other two sessions, that are coming up, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to kind of speak to any questions that we weren't able to speak to today. And I know, we are just about out of time, so I do want to thank our presenters, for their time today and all the information they were able to share with us. And I know I think tried to get to most, if not all of the questions, but if for some reason there were questions, we weren't able to speak to, you can always email admission@reed.edu and we'll make sure to speak to that or make sure to get the information to you. And then, as Jason would want me to share, please do attend those sessions if they seem like they work with your schedule and are of interest. But on that note, I want to really thank everyone for their time today, and we look forward to seeing you at a future event. But thank you all so much.
Thanks for coming.